I'm just going to really briefly kind of set the stage for what we're going to do tonight. Here in front of you, you see just a variety of awards. And in your programs, you will see the different categories of the awards and the people that are going to be receiving them. The theme that you're going to see throughout this entire evening as you hear the stories about the men and women of the Richland Police Department is that everything that we do centers around accomplishing our mission, which is what? Safety and service. Safety and service. That is everything that we do. The piece that I'm so proud of as we accomplish that mission, as we deliver that product of safety and service, is that you'll hear over and over and over again stories that exemplify teamwork. And you'll hear stories that exemplify integrity and stories that exemplify excellence. And I want you to find those little parts of the story that resonate with you on one of those values levels and recognize that that's very purposeful. It's very methodical and very deliberate by this organization. It doesn't happen by accident that Richland is as safe as it is. It doesn't happen by accident that I get to stand up in front of council as early as last week and talk about the low violent crime rate that we have. And the fact that our crime reduction goals that we choose to pursue have nothing to do with violent crime, but everything to do with our larceny crimes. While that seems like a daunting task as we attack some of the larceny crimes and trying to make a difference in our community, I think that we can celebrate the victory that we have stood at the gate year in and year out and kept the criminal element out of the city. And that doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't just happen because we get lucky. It happens because we have a strategy, and it happens because we have a dedicated workforce of men and women that take it very, very personal when it happens on their watch. And for that, I'm very, very thankful. Very, very thankful. Safety and service, that is what we are all about. If nothing else, if we achieve nothing else in our professional lives in this organization, we look back and see, did we provide the best levels of safety and the best service? And we're really, really good at both. But let me talk about service real quick. It reminds me an awful lot when I think about the service of this organization. In the book of Isaiah, when the Lord asks the question, whom shall I send? Who will go for us? And Isaiah speaks up and says, I will. Send me. That's what this organization does. Every single day, this organization says, I'll go, send me. And I appreciate that. And this community appreciates that. So thank you. We are going to get into our awards now, and we are going to start, I think, Jeff, with a special recognition. And so I'm going to invite Jeff Taylor up to present that.
Thank you all for coming tonight. So my part of the program is going to be to honor a couple of reserve officers that we had that retired this past year in 2016. And I wanted to first speak a little bit about what it means to be a reserve officer and some of what goes into being a reserve officer. So these folks, they come in and they volunteer to do this job for free. I have yet to really wrap my brain around that, why somebody would come in and do for free what I do and get paid money for. But these people, bless their heart, they take time out of their busy schedules and they come in and they expose themselves to everything that police officers do on a regular basis. They attend a regular police training academy. They spend 4 hours a night, twice a week for 4 months or so, going through a police academy that teaches them the basic skills of being a police officer. They have to pass a rigorous PTO program. Once they pass that rigorous PTO program, they're blessed to go out on their own and they actually perform the duties of a regular police officer. They're out there right next to our patrol officers, responding to the same calls, walking up on the same vehicles on traffic stops, and putting themselves in harm's way, all for the good of the community and strictly because it's the right thing to do. So Tonight, we're going to honor Dave Grant, who retired. He is not here tonight, but I did want to at least mention him because he served the Richland Police Department from January of 2003 to September of 2016. He donated a total of about, I had to round these numbers, but around 1,700 hours of service to our community. And I know he really enjoyed coming in and working with the guys, and he really contributed a lot to this organization, so I did want to mention that. Next, I want to talk about Dave Newmeyer. Dave Newmeyer is sitting right here, and Dave, if you want to come up, and we're gonna talk a little bit about you for a minute. I was going through your personnel jacket, and I'm going to be a little bit facetious here because there's a picture of you from, it had to have been like your first day of service in 1981. So this is Dave Newmeyer, somewhere around 1981, I believe. So, forgive me if I get any of these facts wrong, Dave, but my understanding is that you were a cadet here for a couple of years at Richland PD. You actually got an AA degree in police science from CBC. And you really struggled a little bit with career paths. Do I want to be a police officer? Do I want to be a school teacher? And you ended up settling on being a school teacher. But that love of being a police officer just never went away. So you started as a Richland Police Department Reserve in November of 1981 is what I have. So from November of 1981 until September of 2016, and by my calculations, that's 35 years of service that you put into this organization. And I think there's probably only one other person in this room that goes back as far as you, and that would be Captain Cobb, who I think maybe you even went to the same Reserve Academy. So, but you had a passion for this line of work, and you had a feeling of service to this community, and I know that's what drove you to be a teacher, and I know that's what drove you to be a Reserve Police Officer. You served as a part of the Richland Police Department Honor Guard for many years. You served as the Secretary-Treasurer for the Richland Police Department Reserve Unit for many years. And most importantly, you were an ambassador for the police department. I can't tell you the number of times while I was on patrol that I would have kids come up to me and say, "Hey, do you know Mr. Newmeyer?" He just always talks about the police department. And I am not kidding. That happened hundreds of times in my time on patrol. And I don't think we could have asked for a more staunch supporter of the Richland Police Department. And before you get away here, I just got to tell a couple of stories, because what would this be without a couple of stories, right? So I was going through your personnel jacket, and I ran across a written letter of reprimand, and I found it kind of ironic because, correct me if I'm wrong, but many years you served as the driver's ed instructor at Hanford High, isn't that correct? So of all things, this letter of reprimand in his file was because Dave ran into a telephone pole, of all things. It wasn't that he got T-boned in an intersection. No, our driver's ed teacher, he ran into it was a light post in a parking lot. So I ripped that up for you. That's not in your jacket anymore. So I was also told about another story that I understand they couldn't get a hold of you on the radio, and your sergeant got a little worried about you, went looking for you. He found you balled up on the side of the road, and from what I understand, somehow you managed to set off your OC spray canister inside your patrol car. And so you were balled up on the side of the road and pretty much incapacitated from that, which I would be too. So. And then on a more serious note, more recently even, I think you were acting as a cover unit for a state patrol officer down on Adams or Abbott, somewhere in that area. You had an unruly suspect who decided to get a little bit cagey on you and took off running. You guys tracked him down. We're in the process of getting him in custody when a DUI driver comes up the road and absolutely not noticing you guys at all. And from what I understand, it was a hair's length, as I think your foot even may have gotten caught by the car. So managed to jump out of the way, but that's the type of stuff that these reserve officers have done for us over the years. They put themselves in harm's way just as these regular police officers do, and we really appreciate the years of service that you put in. I did some calculating, And I came up with around, and this is a round number, but it's got to be pretty close, 10,000 hours of service, which if you look at a 8-hour day, 40-hour work week, that's 1,250 days worked, 250 weeks or 5 years of service that you put in volunteer without being paid because you felt so strongly about this community and taking care of the citizens and being a part of the Richland Police Department. And I also would be amiss if I didn't mention your lovely wife, Karen, who has, through the years, supported you and allowed you to wander off out into these crazy streets of Richland with these crazy officers. And we just thank you so much for that. So we have a plaque for you, Dave, and we just want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
As I get organized up here, that listening to Jeff talk and tell the stories it reminds me an awful lot of a White House press briefing and a lot of alternative facts there. Come on. I know this is a tough crowd, so. I'm going to take some creative liberties at this point. And this is not on the program. So I'm going to, we're going to honor Mike Cobb, and he knows we're going to honor Mike Cobb, because Mike's smart, and he's been here around 35 years, and you can't pull anything over on Mike Cobb. And I'm so pleased that your family's here. But I'd like to ask Curtis Smith to come up and kind of tee this up, and I think we've got a little bit of a special, about a little special 10 minutes here that we'd like to honor you, Mike. So just bear with us, okay?
Well, he ruined my punchline because it was a big secret, all right? So actually, if I could get two very special guests to join me here at the lectern, the Commanders Guerrero and Child from KPD. The reason why we've chosen these gentlemen, and I'll give them the mic here very shortly, is they have a history that predates the majority of us when it comes to Mike. It was my honor to know Dave for, 17 years that I've been here at the PD. And in his letter of resignation from the reserve program when he decided to retire, he noted just how the city of Richland and the profession of law enforcement changed and has evolved. And it really struck me, well, there is no one who knows that better in this room than Mike Cobb for 35 years. So I'm going to go ahead and give the microphone over to the commanders. Gentlemen, if you would.
Well, the first thing we'd like to do is I want to thank you, Chief Skinner, for allowing us to come to your awards banquet today. This is very important to us, to have an opportunity to express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Captain Mike Cobb on behalf of the Tri-Cities Regional SWAT Team. This is a big honor for both of us, and we're really glad to be here. Before we start, would you be so kind as to start a small video that we would like to have everybody look at?
One magazine, lock and load. Fire select lever to full auto. Up! Police, get down! Suspect! Right, left! Right, left! Police, get down! So when the special weapons teams are called, it is with the specific intent of safeguarding the lives of the citizens that we are supposed to serve. Mask up! Now! Mask up! Come on, quickly, mask up! We're tasked with the missions that very few people want to handle because of the complexity and the danger and the difficulty of the situation. Hey, from this point forward, you may not take off your mask. The only way you can take off your mask is A, if you pass out, and then Dave will come by and take your mask off for you, or 2, if you throw up. Some of the guys from some of these various agencies, they're real studs. That's all they do is they train all the time, and that's indicative of how well they go through these obstacles. Anybody tired? Swing it up! Let's go, come on through.
Come on!
The leadership reaction course is primarily designed to accomplish several missions, but we're trying to get the people on the different tactical units to work as a team. All of the complex skills that we need in the field are accomplished and honed here.
Cover your target! Cover your target! Let's go! Come on through! Come on!
It's a real honor to be here with all these people. You know, not everyone can do this job. They're carefully selected, you know, for not only their physical, but their mental capability.
Are you tired? Come on! Watch the target! Don't get lazy! Lean in, Cap! Talk to him! Suspect! Watch the target! Come in, make him safe. Make sure it's locked in.
It's very intense, very quickly. There is a degree of danger, a degree of fear, also a degree of commitment that you have to perform your function to the best of your ability. If you don't, people die. That's why we go through the hundreds and hundreds of hours of training that we go through, the practice, the 22-hour days that we exist under. It's not for the working conditions. It is definitely for our ability to save lives.
Get some oxygen.
Okay. With one fully loaded magazine, lock and load, up! They truly provide a valuable service to the citizens of our community in that they are trained and equipped to handle things that patrol officers cannot. So our primary function is to save lives.
Oh, I think we have some more shooting to do.
Captain Cobb became a SWAT officer on February 4th, 1985. He served on the Washington State Tactical Officers Association Executive Board for 10 years, 4 of which as their president. As seen in the video, Captain Cobb was an instructor for the SWAT Basic and Advanced Academies for over 12 years. Captain Cobb was a certified instructor in entry tactics, chemical agents, NFDDs, also known as flashbangs, tactical pistol, tactical rifle, breaching, less lethal, and defensive tactics. Most importantly, Captain Cobb will forever be remembered by hundreds of SWAT officers for his unmatched ability to operate a submachine gun in full automatic mode. His love for the HK MP5 remains legendary.
Luckily, you all had the pleasure to see what, at the time, we used to hear all the time, the lock and load. All the guys who've been through SWAT Basic during that era knew Mike for that. And people around the state would talk about lock and load, and that was Mike. Operationally, Captain Cobb served as a member of the entry team before becoming an element leader, team commander, and finally an incident commander. On a side note, then Kennewick Police Captain Ken Hohenberg made a request for the Kennewick Police Department to join the then Benton County Regional SWAT Team. Mike and the Richland Police Department were very, very supportive in that endeavor, and Scott and I were lucky to be 2 of the first guys from Kennewick to be honored to join the team at that time. Captain Cobb and his support was instrumental in the transition by letting us borrow SWAT vests, equipment, rifles. Yeah, then Kennewick wasn't as spoiled as we are now. We'll be forever grateful for his support, leadership, and friendship. Captain Cobb was instrumental in the development of our regional SWAT team for many years, and we will all be forever indebted for his contributions and commitment to our continued success. So with that, on behalf of the Tri-City Regional SWAT team, we want to thank Captain Mike Cobb for 32 years of service to our team, and we are honored to present him with a small token of our appreciation with this plaque.
2 minutes, right? All right. Well, as Chief Skinner said, I had an inkling something was going to happen, but nothing this elaborate. So it's hard to accept an award just for being who you are. But Scotty Child came through SWAT Basic. I think he was 20 years old, working for the Washington State Penitentiary. Those of you who know Scott can imagine him as a young man without all the filters that he's developed over the years, right? Chris Guerrero was, again, part of the element that joined us when we first merged our teams together. Richland, Benton County had a joint SWAT team in 1990, and Kennewick joined shortly thereafter. Chris is part of the team that went back with us to the World Trade Centers after 9/11. They asked for specially trained critical incident stress management officers who had tactical experience, and Chris is one of the ones, my wife Terry is the team leader, tapped to go back with us and work with NYPD. So those are the quality of gentlemen you've got to spend most of your adult life with. One of the guys who was one of my mentors, one of the founding members of the Richland Police SWAT team is Chief Randy Carper. Randy was my first sergeant when I came on board as a formerly Kennewick Reserve and then a Richland police officer. Was there when I was selected for the team. There are 3 people who have served as president of the Washington State Tactical Officers Association from the Richland Police Department. That's unparalleled of any department in Washington State. Randy Carper was the first, I was the second, Sergeant Wayne Dubois is the third and currently serving as the president. And that says a lot about the caliber of people that we generate here in the Tri-Cities, and it really is a regional effort. The guy who took my spot on the team, Sergeant Al Jenkins, the man who was nicknamed Captain America, was able to take some of the stuff that we had built as a foundation that Randy had started, passed on to my generation, passed on to Al's generation, and really went forward to be recognized nationally and internationally as some of the best tactical operators that this area has ever seen. The guys who serve today, Rod Matheny, Todd Woodhouse, Matt Nelson, Ryan Miller, John Raby, and Brandon Coe, continue that tradition. Those are just the Richland police officers. We started off with 6 guys. Now that's not even an entry element. We now have way more than that. Our full complement is going to be 24 operators. And so, you know, Lieutenant Smith is currently the incident commander and tries to carry that piece of it forward as well. But there's 2 people that I have to thank more than anybody. The first is my wife, Terry. The story goes, and it's true, we got married on a Saturday. I deployed to SWAT Basic that following day on Sunday. And for the next 12 years, I was back every anniversary teaching at SWAT Basic. The sacrifices, the absences, the work that she has put in to my career is unbelievable. My son, Jeff, the same way. He grew up surrounded by tactical officers and canine handlers. That's the only life that he's ever known, and he proudly serves as a Pasco police officer today. So for the 2 of them, they make it possible for me to exist. You look around this room, and every man, every woman in here is supported by a strong family. Whether you're in the law enforcement service, whether you have a specialty deployment, or you're doing what our core mission is, and that's providing patrol services 24/7. We can't do our function without our families. So for that, I want to say thank you. You don't hear it nearly enough. Again, to the men I've been privileged to serve with, it has been an honor. So thank you.
So we're not letting Mike off the hook. I mean, I know it's not like he's dead or going anywhere, for crying out loud. We're still putting him to work. You don't do this for that long and then all of a sudden just right off into the sunset. We have him in a capacity that he will continue to mentor and lead that team. But I thought it was important for us to take a pause and do that. And in fairness, with some levity, the only thing that's probably got more years of service than Mike Cobb is Mike Cobb's mustache. I don't know if anybody in this room or any family member has ever known him without having a mustache. Jeff, he had it when you were born. It's the same thing. It's impressive. It's just impressive. All right, we're going to transition to our awards, and these are going to go pretty quickly. And I know we've been here a while, and I really appreciate your patience, but this is really important for us to do. So we're gonna launch right into it. The first award we're gonna give tonight, yeah, can I have the command staff come up and just kind of flank where it's comfortable, because I want to make sure you shake the hand of every man and woman that we recognize tonight. The first award that we're going to give is the Chiefs Award. The Chiefs Award is a little bit unique. Well, let me back up just a little bit. Every single one of these awards is nominated by either the recipient's peers or supervisor. And the piece that I'm really proud of is that the decision to place this award in a certain category, or even to accept the category at all, is made by a governing body or a board that we put together that is representative of our entire organization, both sworn and professional staff alike. So really, when we give these awards, these are awards that the peers have nominated and that peers have voted on, and so it makes it very special, except for this one. This one is the Chiefs Award. This is my one time where I get to, and me alone, get to make a decision about who I'm going to give this award to, and I don't do it hastily, and I don't do it without a tremendous amount of thought. Detective Jeff Bickford is currently assigned to the Southeast Regional Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Detective Bickford has been assigned to the unit since its inception and has been instrumental in its growth and success. During this assignment, Detective Bickford learned of the horrors of child exploitation and human trafficking, not only in our local area, but around the world. Through his many contacts related to fighting the exploitation of children, Detective Bickford learned the Cambodian National Police were often doing raids of known sex trafficking locations without any of the protective equipment that we take for granted in the United States. Knowing that we had equipment that had been excess due to age, Detective Bickford went out finding a way to get that equipment into the hands of the officers in Cambodia. He worked with Agape International Mission and facilitated the transfer of excess body armor and Kevlar helmets to the officers on the front lines in Cambodia who were fighting for the victims of human trafficking. Detective Bickford also assisted in bringing the movie The Abolitionists to our region by working with Operation Underground Railroad. The Abolitionists is a documentary that brings awareness to the ongoing fight against the global problem of trafficking children for sexual exploitation. Because of Detective Bickford's exceptional initiative to fighting the exploitation of children, our community better understands our mission, which has allowed us to be able to assist others in fighting child exploitation and human trafficking. The actions of Detective Bickford mirror the mission and values of the Richland Police Department, and for his actions, Detective Jeffrey Bickford is awarded the Richland Police Department's Police Chief Award.
Excellent. So this is kind of a team award, so bear with me because it's going to go in two different phases. I want to tell you guys about an event that happened about 5 o'clock a.m. on December 3rd, 2016. Members of the B Squad responded to the Shiloh Inn for a in-progress shots fired call. B Squad, led by Sergeant Jenkins, responded to the call. Arrived on scene were Sergeant Jenkins, Officer Glasgow, Officer Hessla, Officer Mersteig, Officer Coe, and Officer Raymond. As officers arrived on scene, they could hear gunshots coming from one of the rooms on the south wing of the hotel. The team moved through the hotel and towards the gunfire. Note that they moved towards the sound of gunfire. While the team was moving to the room, they encountered a female victim. Officer Glasgow and Officer Mersteig led her to safety. Officer Raymond, Officer Hessla, Officer Coe, and Sergeant Jenkins moved to the hotel room where the suspect had barricaded himself in a room and was actively shooting rounds. The team contained the room and evacuated citizens from adjoining rooms. At times, the officers used their own bodies to stand between the suspect that was firing rounds and citizens who were being evacuated. Sergeant Jenkins was able to make telephone contact with the suspect, and after a prolonged conversation, he was able to negotiate a peaceful surrender. Following an investigation into the scene, it was determined that the suspect had fired approximately 30 rounds in the room, with multiple rounds exiting the room in the direction of the officers. While the events at the hotel room were unfolding, Officer Glasgow and Officer Mersteig were able to calm the victim down and obtain information from her that was critical in the forthcoming negotiations with the suspect. For their actions during a high-risk and dangerous event while exposed to direct gunfire, Sergeant Alan Jenkins, Officer Alex Hesla, Officer Brandon Coe, and Officer Jacob Raymond are awarded the Richland Police Department's Meritorious Service Award for their actions during a high-risk call where exceptional coordination and attention to detail led to a quick and peaceful resolution. Officers Troy Glasgow and Officer Dean Mersteig are awarded the Richland Police Department's Achievement Award. Please join me in a round of applause. Come on up, fellas. I'm going to stay here because there's more to this event than just the police officer response. You heard Chief Skinner welcome as special guests some folks from CECOM, some of our dispatchers. You know, when we were evaluating this call, the command staff thought it more than appropriate and felt we had been remiss over the years for not recognizing the second half of the emergency response. So I'm going to go ahead and read another award, and I won't make you come up till the very end, as per our agreement. So this is the Distinguished Service Award. Again, on December 3rd, 2016, CECOM was at minimum staffing and received a call for a weapons complaint at the Shiloh Inn. The event quickly evolved into an active shooter situation, and a team of 4 dispatchers sprang into action. Sorry, I'm not going to say your last names, but you know who you are. We'll bring you up. Kristen was working SP, which is our primary channel for the Richland Police Department, and served as the primary dispatcher for the event. Kristen calmly and efficiently dispatched the initial weapons complaint and updated responding units as the severity and complexity of the event increased. Kristen effectively relayed pertinent information and was able to document events and coordinate responding units. Teresa was working as Kennewick primary. In addition to handling non-emergency phone calls and providing safety instructions to the on-site employees at the Shiloh, Teresa took several 911 calls related to the event and coordinated responding units to close affected roadways. Teresa remained calm and correctly pieced together multiple 911 calls as being related to the event. Amy was working data. Amy took the initial 911 weapons complaint, gathered relevant information, and asked clarifying questions as to the location of the gunshots and the gunman. Amy called the Shiloh Inn and provided evacuation instructions, called the Washington State Patrol and the Washington State Department of Transportation, and continued to work data and 911 emergency phone calls. Jenny was working fire primary and was the on-duty supervisor. In addition to taking 911 calls related to the event, dispatching Richland Fire Department units, fielding non-emergency phone calls, and paging out SWAT, Jenny spoke with the shooting suspect 3 times, each time remaining professional and seeking information that would increase safety for the first responders and for the citizens. Now, it's important to understand the structure of CECOM. The phones never stop, and the calls never stop. This event was obviously a major event and demanded incredible coordination between 4. How many do you normally have at full staffing on a day? 6? All right, so you're down a third. Yeah, we deal at minimums all the time. Here's the deal. Our city values are teamwork, integrity, and excellence. And if there's a call that ever, to me, from your guys' position, exemplify those very values, it is this one. So for your collective dedication displayed by this group to our shared values, as a true testament of your dedication and your commitment, this event underscores the vital importance of professional dispatchers to the first responding community. That's both police and fire. And for the times we haven't said thank you, this is a step in the right direction. For their actions, these 4 dispatchers are awarded the Richland Police Department Distinguished Service Award. Come on up. So I don't see Officer Noren. Are you here? I've not seen Officer Noren. Okay, well, I think it's important to recognize him even though he's not here. This next event, on August 5th, 2016, Officer Noren was dispatched to a welfare check at 1728 Jadwin, number C, in reference to a 4-month-old infant who was not breathing. Prior to the arrival of Officer Noren, he was advised to disregard as the callers were transporting the child to Cadillac themselves. Officer Noren contacted the Cadillac emergency room to follow up on the welfare check and to confirm the child had been transported and also to check on the child's condition. Officer Noren found that the family was at the hospital with the child and that they were creating a disturbance and making it difficult for the hospital to treat the child. He contacted the family and realized that he knew them from prior domestic violence calls. He spoke to the parents separately and found that they had drastically different stories regarding what happened to their baby. The parents were also evasive and extremely defensive in answering basic questions. After speaking with the parents, Officer Noren was advised that the child had died. Hospital workers advised there was no obvious trauma to the child, but based on the totality of everything that Officer Noren had discovered, he elected to contact his supervisor and eventually to call out the detective division. Had Officer Noren not been persistent, and had he not responded in person to the Cadillac emergency room, the police department may have not been contacted regarding the incident, and a proper investigation by the detective division may not have been completed. Today, we honor his good decision-making, his veteran stance on this job, which is much, much more than just arresting people. It's helping people, specifically the most innocent among us. On this date, Officer Noren's actions are consistent and actually promote our shared values of integrity, teamwork, and excellence. And for his actions, Officer Noren is awarded the Richland Police Department Achievement Award. Thank you. Okay, so for my very last one, this is also an achievement award, and I need this gentleman to stand up here while I read it the entire time. So Sergeant Florence, if you'd come forward, please. You can stand right there in the middle. Excellent, thank you. On May 19th, 2016, Sergeant Florence was dispatched to deliver a death notification to Crystal Nethery. Unbeknownst to Crystal, her husband, who was in his early 30s, had passed away due to an unexpected medical episode. Sergeant Florence responded to the house to deliver the news. When he arrived, Sergeant Florence delivered the news in a caring and compassionate manner. While at the house, he discovered that Crystal was now a single mother to a toddler and that she was due in 2 days to give birth to her second child. Sergeant Florence left the home, and had he done nothing else, his duty would have been fulfilled and nothing else would have been required of him. Instead, Sergeant Florence recognized a need and decided to do something to try and help this family. Sergeant Florence collaborated with numerous charitable organizations as well as local businesses to get donations for the family. Sergeant Florence was able to come up with hundreds of dollars worth of needed supplies for the family. He coordinated with Crystal and Crystal's mother to deliver the items, and several days later, he and several members of this Richland Police Department were able to give the needed diapers, infant supplies, and toys to the family. Sergeant Florence went above and beyond to represent the Richland Police Department in a positive light. He recognized a citizen in need and he did everything he could to make a tragic situation a little easier to a struggling family. For his actions, Sergeant Florence is being presented with the Richland Police Department Achievement Award. Excellent work. So that wraps up for me anyway, so you won't have to listen to me anymore. I believe it's your turn, Lieutenant Lee.
This award is an achievement award as well. So on July 18th, 2016, the Richland Police Department responded to a report of a child choking and possibly not breathing. The 2-year-old child was airlifted to Spokane and eventually died due to a severe skull fracture. Detectives conducted a thorough investigation and referred the case to the prosecutor's office for charges. On August 5th, 2016, the Richland Police Department responded to an infant who was not breathing. The child was transported to Cadillac Medical Center, where she was later pronounced dead. Again, detectives conducted a thorough investigation and referred the case to the prosecutor's office for review. On August 12th, 2016, the Richland Police Department responded to a suspicious circumstance that was related to a missing person reported out of West Richland. West Richland initially took the lead on the case, but once the case became such that further resources were requested, West Richland PD requested Richland PD take over the investigation. At this point, the investigation was about a month old and was somewhat stale, but Richland detectives were able to obtain valuable information and identify a potential suspect. This case is still under investigation as a potential kidnap and possible homicide. Investigating 3 major cases in less than 1 month is a significant undertaking for a detective division of 5 investigators, especially since each detective still carries a caseload in conducting other investigations of lower priority. Each of these major cases were treated with the priority, professionalism, and thoroughness they deserved. Detectives Stoll, Jansen, Lundquist, Benson, and Clark were personally invested mentally, physically, and emotionally in each case. Through these cases, the detectives truly displayed the Richland Police Department's values of teamwork, integrity, and excellence. For their actions in these cases, they are being awarded the Richland Police Department Achievement Award. If you please come forward. We're not going to let Detective Jansen sit down for too long because this next one is about him as well. On January 12th, 2016, Detective Jansen was assigned to investigate a case involving a 16-year-old Laotian girl named Camity. Did I pronounce that right? Camity? Okay. 4 years prior, Camity's father sent her to live with her mother and her stepfather in America. Prior to arriving in America, Camity had not seen her mother since she was an infant and had never met her stepfather. During the investigation, Camity disclosed inappropriate sexual behavior by the stepfather. Because of this, Camity's mother initially allowed her to stay with a friend. CPS became involved and held meetings to determine if it would be safe for Camity to return to live with her mother and stepfather. Camity expressed fear of her stepfather, and it became apparent that her mother was not interested in protecting Camity from her husband. To complicate matters, the friend's house she was staying at was no longer an option. Detective Jansen and CPS caseworker Marco De Ochoa began looking for alternatives, including the possibility of Camity returning to Laos to live with her father. It was determined that this was not a good option due to very limited opportunity for Camity there. Detective Jansen reached out to Lee and Ashley Williams, who were a personal acquaintance of the family. They graciously agreed to welcome Camity into their home after learning the circumstances. Detective Jansen and Marco De Ochoa spent many hours in the following months working through the legal process to be able to allow Camity to stay with the Williams. They were met with resistance from Camity's mother and eventually had to work with the State Attorney General's office to work out the legalities. Due to the dedication to the victim and the diligent efforts of Detective Jansen and De Ochoa, Camity was permanently placed with the Williams family, who have now obtained third-party custody. Recognition must be given to Lee and Ashley Williams for welcoming Camity into their home and working through the lengthy and tedious process to obtain third-party custody. At no point during this potentially costly process did the Williams waver in their commitment to Camity. The Williams family assumed all costs, including legal costs associated with taking Camity into their home, with no assistance being available from the state. The efforts from the Williams family have given Camity an opportunity for an education, a future, and a family like she never would have experienced without them. Recognition must also be given to Jansen and de Ochoa for their relentless efforts and dedication to the victim even after the investigation was completed. These actions clearly demonstrate the Richland Police Department's value of integrity, teamwork, and excellence. For these actions, Detective Jansen and Marco de Ochoa are awarded the Richland Police Department Achievement Award.
So I get to speak next. On November 18, 2016, Street Crimes Unit Officers Luke Floor, Sam Grant, Sergeant Jaron Whitby, and Lieutenant Curtis Smith were notified of a kidnapping investigation occurring in Kennewick. Soon after being notified, Kennewick staff members requested assistance leveraging technology, crisis negotiations, and incident command on this incredibly complex case. Officers Floor and Grant began coordinating GPS units in order to track the ransom money, map the suspect's location, and assist in locating a potential victim. The situation was very dynamic in nature due to the fact that the suspect was using the victim's phone to contact police, as well as a voice modulator to disguise their own voices. Officers Fleur and Grant worked tirelessly to utilize technology, gather information from multiple sources, obtain court orders, map locations in 2 states, and liaison with field units to locate the suspect responsible for the kidnapping. Sergeant Whitby relied on his extensive experience as a crisis negotiator to lead the contacts with the kidnapping suspect. Coordinating via both voice and text, the communication provided to command personnel and field units was essential in facilitating a search area spanning Oregon to North Franklin County. Sergeant Whitby's skills are in the finest tradition of crisis negotiators. Lieutenant Smith was tasked by command to coordinate efforts between the negotiators, the officers gathering intelligence information, and the incident commanders. An overwhelming amount of data was received from multiple sources. Lieutenant Smith was able to prioritize, sort, and disseminate the information as needed to optimize the operational response. The role was key in coordinating all of the units in the field. All of these individuals distinguished themselves assisting in this complex and rapidly evolving investigation with exceptional performance and use of skill sets were of significant value to the host agency, which in this case was Kennewick PD. Their efforts and performance exemplify the department values and reflects well upon the employees of the Richland Police Department and members of our profession. For their efforts, Officers Floor, Grant, Sergeant Whitby, and Lieutenant Smith received the Distinguished Service Commendation. The next award involves Officer Doug Doss and Officer Eric Edwards. It's a Meritorious Service Award. On July 25th, 2016, at about 0850 hours, Officer Doug Doss and Officer Eric Edwards were contacted by a concerned citizen referencing an erratic driver who was parked in the area of Columbia Park Trail and Windmill Road. The officers responded to the area, located the vehicle, and immediately recognized the suspect driver was acting erratically. It was later determined the suspect was high on a synthetic form of marijuana known as spice. Without warning, the suspect launched a spontaneous deadly force assault on Officer Doss. The two struggled for position for a moment and then fell to the gravel where the suspect ended up on Officer Doss's back. The suspect was actively attempting to pull Officer Doss's firearm from its holster. Officer Edwards deployed his taser, but only one probe attached and it had little if any effect. While Officer Doss continued to roll around on the ground with the suspect, he employed weapon retention techniques to prevent the suspect from gaining his handgun. Officer Edwards tackled the suspect and struck the suspect repeatedly with his forearms and elbows. Officer Edwards' strikes allowed Officer Doss to break free from the suspect and radio for further assistance. The suspect now actively engaged in with Officer Edwards. Officer Doss deployed his taser on the suspect. Officers Doss and Edwards, working in tandem, were able to get control of the suspect and effect an arrest. The officers should be commended for the event as they were able to appropriately and reasonably escalate and de-escalate their individual and team tactics to fit the level of resistance and specific type of resistance being encountered. The officers received varying degrees of injury consistent with scrapes, cuts, bruises, and swelling. Throughout the incident, Officers Doss and Edwards maintained their bearing and composure in the course of a deadly force assault. Officers Doss and Edwards won. They did so in a manner that showcases their skills and never quit attitude. For their actions on this date, which was truly a lethal force encounter, Officers Doss and Officer Edwards are awarded the Richland Police Department Meritorious Service Award. Officer Doss and Edwards.
Okay. This next award is the Meritorious Service Award, and it's being awarded to Ron Schneider. Had the pleasure this year of sitting on the awards panel, putting this together. This is the one award that was upgraded by the panel unanimously. So I'll read the citation here. In the early hours of August 20th, 2016, officers were dispatched to a residential structure fire. It was reported by a citizen that the residence at 925 Long Avenue was on fire and that smoke and flames were billowing from the residence. First to answer the call was Officer Schneider. Officer Schneider's response was so rapid that he arrived prior to the fire department. Officer Schneider saw that the roof was fully engulfed in flames and smoke was quickly filling the inside of the residence. Officer Schneider made note of several vehicles in the driveway, and based on the early hour of the day, suspected there were people asleep inside the house. Immediately after realizing people's lives were in jeopardy, Officer Schneider rushed to the house and began beating on the door. When the homeowner answered the door, Officer Schneider learned that there were others asleep inside the house. With the roof already engulfed in smoke and smoke pouring into the house, there was no time to wait for fire personnel. Officer Schneider entered the house and assisted the homeowner with waking other residents of the house and assisting them to safety. Officer Hayter wrote an account of Officer Schneider's actions, and I'm going to read what he wrote. Officer Schneider told me these details regarding entering the house, as a matter of fact, and downplayed his involvement. However, it was clear that he, without hesitation, exposed himself to smoke and danger inherent with a fast-moving house fire to awaken the residents who all made it out safely. The home was completely engulfed in fire and smoke a short time later, and the outcome could have been much worse than just than loss of property, if not for the action of Officer Schneider. Officer Schneider's actions were clearly above and beyond the call of duty. Everything from his initial response to his quick action resulting in waking up those that were in harm's way, to his assistance of the fire department personnel afterwards was in line with the Richland Police Department's values of teamwork, integrity, and excellence. For his actions, Officer Schneider is awarded the Richland Police Department Meritorious Service Award. Come on. All right, this next award, John, would you come up, please? And while he's walking up, Officer Parrish, would you come up, please? So we have a guest here from a company who would also like to present an award along with this in conjunction with the award that Officer Parrish is going to receive from the Richland Police Department. This is John from Cardiac Science, and he has an award that he would like to present to Officer Parrish, and I'll read the citation. On October 31st of 2016, Leighton Tomerlin, a student attending the Hanford High School, collapsed during PE class. Officer Parrish was notified of the emergency. Officer Parrish wasted no time in responding to the downed student and made the appropriate notifications to EMS. Officer Parrish and other staff members located Leighton. Officer Parrish, along with Hanford High teacher, immediately initiated CPR and utilized a nearby automatic electronic defibrillator to restore Leighton's heart rhythm, subsequently saving his life. If not for the quick response of Officer Parrish and his ability to quickly assess a critical situation, the student may not have survived. His quick actions resulted in the preservation of life, and for his actions, he is awarded the Richland Police Department Life-Saving Medal.
How about one last round of applause for all of our award recipients? while we recognize these individuals on this special night, it is just a sampling of the fantastic work that goes on every single day in this community. And I think that you all know that I hope you all know how valued you are as employees and how valued your families are as members of the RPD family. Thank you for spending some time with us. That's a long 2 hours. I understand that on a Friday night, but I do thank you for spending the time with us. It's important that we come together. It's important that we're in relationship with each other. It's important that we support each other through these difficult times and celebrate each other's victories and successes. And for that, I thank you very much for spending your time. Go home, enjoy your families, drive home safe.